The 23rd Psalm has been with me since I was a second grader. I memorized it over 50 years ago. And so many people memorize this poem in childhood. It's very short, but it's very important for every child in the world to know Psalm 23 because you never know when you may need it. As I researched this book and looked for stories, I found the story of a man named Maurice Pink and had the opportunity of talking to him. He's up in his 90s and living in England, and he was a sailor with the British Royal Navy. He was on board the HMS Repulse on December the 10th of 1941 when it was struck by Japanese torpedoes and sunk. It sunk very quickly. And his very survival is a miracle. He was down in the bottom of the ship, but somehow the hatches were open and he found the ladders and the gates, and he was able to strip off his clothes and jump naked into the South China Sea. But he said, I was so confused, I didn't know where I was, and the sharks were circling me, and I didn't have any kind of life preserver, and I didn't see anybody else, and there was smoke and confusion, and I was in shock. But he said, at that moment, Psalm 23 came into my mind, and he said, it was like a life preserver that held me up until I was rescued. And then he said, would you like for me to read to you what I have written about that day? And I said, I would like it very much. So this is what he wrote. There are times in your life when things don't go right and you feel all alone. That happened to me on December the 10th, 1941, when I was on the battle cruiser HMS Repulse with the nearby HMS Prince of Wales. We were attacked by the Japanese Air Force, which resulted in both ships being sunk. I found myself alone in the water, not able to see anyone else. It was then that the 23rd Psalm came into my head, and I realized I was not alone. I had a shepherd. The Lord was my shepherd. I did not need to want. I was not in green pastures, but in oily waters. But He restored my soul. Even though I was in the valley of the shadow of death, I was to fear no evil, for He was with me. The rod and the staff did not ring a bell with me until voices above me were shouting. Looking up, there was a big destroyer alongside me with nets over the side, which allowed me to climb to safety. That was my rod and staff. I didn't see a table set before me, but I did get a cup of the ship's cocoa. He said, since that day, goodness and mercy have followed me all the days of my life. And when I look back on my life, I wonder what would have happened if I had died. There again, I have the answer. I would dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Thank you, he said, Lord, for being my shepherd and for the 23rd Psalm.